Discovering Asian dramas back in 2018 was an enlightening moment for me, and I've never looked back. I enjoy talking about them just as much as watching them. So much so that I decided to create a podcast with a heavier focus on Chinese dramas, but passing through Korean, Japanese, Thai, and Filipino dramas. Welcome to the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast, your corner for drama talking. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Tea and Soju podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and to start off this episode, I just want to say you might hear some noises because it's rainy in the UK and it's wintry and it's cold in general, and that means that I have to dry my clothes in the dryer, and it so just happens that the dryer is going at the same time that I'm recording. So I'm hoping you can't hear it too much, but if you can hear a little bit of noise in the background, that's what it is. Although it does mean that because it is rainy and, just cold in general, and I do not get along with the cold. Goodness knows, how the UK became my choice to live, but here we are. But it does mean that for the first time, actually, this is just an aside and a very random way to start the podcast episode, but we're rolling with it. So for the first time since I'm actually recording the podcast, I'm sitting down to record it and I have a nice warm cup of tea with me, which, comes with the territory of the name of the podcast. So it's quite fitting, I think. And anyways, I think I've got a chai tea today, which I just love because it is like cinnamony and it's just so good. It's warm and comforting, and it's one of my favorite teas to drink in the winter. So as a random, I was going to do a question at the end of the episode. Well, what about a random question at the beginning of the episode? And since we're on the topic, what tea, if you drink tea, what is your go-to tea? What is that one tea that you really, really enjoy? Or coffee, because I'm a coffee lover as well, but, it's gone 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and if I drink coffee now, it doesn't do too much to me, but I just rather switch to tea in, later on in the day. I drink all my coffee in the morning and then, all my tea in the evening. But anyways, what is your go-to drink in the winter time? And I know some of you guys probably live in areas where it doesn't really get cold, but if that's the case, then what is your, just your go-to beverage? Because I used to be a strictly tea person, and now I'm a tea and coffee person. I just enjoy both of them. But yeah, that was a really random way to start an episode. So shall we actually get into the episode? In today's episode, we have another review. And actually, I didn't have this planned, but it seems to me this year, all of my favorite dramas are coming at me from completely left field. I'm not expecting them at all, and then they hit me and I love them, and I don't know what's going on. This is so I'm currently watching another drama that was exactly the same thing. This is 3 of my favorite dramas this year are going to be just that. They came completely out of nowhere. I was expecting nothing from them, and they're my top dramas. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, today's episode, shall we actually get into it? So in today's episode, we are going to talk about the recently finished Love in Time. If you haven't watched it yet and you basically just want to see if this one is for you, then so the first half of my episode will be spoiler free, so listen on and you can then decide whether you want to watch it or not. And then I'll just give you a heads up when I switch over to the spoilery part. So if you guys are thinking about checking it out but aren't quite sure, then listen to my first half, go watch it, and then come back. You won't regret it. So, as always, my review episodes will take the format of me just talking about what the drama is about first, as well as actors, directors, and screenwriters, if the information for that is available. Sometimes writers and directors for that matter aren't actually easily accessible information, at least for me anyways. I don't speak Chinese, so it might be there, but sometimes it's just hard for me to access that. So I can only go off the apps that I use, and sometimes they don't list the directors or the writers. But if the information is available, then I always try to use it. Then I will move on to things I enjoyed about the drama, and then I will talk about some things that I didn't enjoy it. And then just to round out the episode, I will just mention my rating for the episode and who I think would enjoy watching it as well. So, Love in Time is a 2022-24 episode Chinese drama, and it stars Yang Shuwen and Xiang Hanji. So she actually has an English name, and she goes by the English name of Julia Chiang. And the drama was directed by Zhao Jintao, and it is an Aichi drama. And it's actually based on another Aichi production. However, the original isn't Chinese. The original is Taiwanese, and it was called Meet Me at 10:06. So basically, the story was picked up by the same network, but remade into a Chinese drama as opposed to Taiwanese drama with, Chinese writer, Chinese director, and Chinese cast. But the original network for it is the same. So Aichi owns both Meet Me at 10:06 and now that currently, just finished Love in Time. So the story revolves around a successful lawyer named He Zhongyu, played by Yang Shuwen, who takes on a divorce case. This particular divorce case leads his career to take a downturn, and at the firm he is a partner at. Basically, so he takes on this one case, and something happens within the case that isn't necessarily his fault, but because it does happen, and people within his firm have been wanting him out, they use that as an excuse to force him into a break from work. And then it basically means that he has to move out of the apartment that he is in at the moment, because that is paid by the company he works for. So he has to move out there. He finds himself basically living a completely different life. And one evening, he is just at home, and then suddenly our female lead, Chen Jialan, shows up in his apartment. He's basically at first, when she first shows up, he thinks he's seeing ghosts because nobody's meant to be in his house. And then because it's he calls it a phenomenon, and it just keeps happening every single night. They both claim that the apartment is theirs because basically it happens once, and then he can't actually talk to her or anything, so he thinks she's a ghost. But then it happens again the next night, and they actually get to talking, and she's like, no, I have a contract, and he goes, no, I have a contract. So they originally think that they've been duped, and he's like, no, this can't be happening. I'm a lawyer. There is no way I've been duped. And then basically they look and the dates on the contract are peculiar because Jialan has a 2021 date on her contract, whereas Zhang Yu has a 2022 contract. Turns out basically that every night at 10:06 their timeline merges for 50 minutes, bringing past and future together, and it basically allows them both to be in different timelines but in the same apartment. A certain event brings them to work together to avoid a tragedy in the future. Now along the way obviously they fall in love, but realistically, the drama then boils down to, can they resolve all the issues that they need to? And can a relationship that only lasts 15 minutes a day, will it work? And also, when will the time merge end? Because every night this like phenomenon happens to them, and they never know if that's going to be the last time. They never know if that's, going to be the very last time that they get to see each other. And also, I think perhaps the biggest question is, where is Chen Jialan in 2022? Because we don't see her, for a little while. We do eventually know what's going on there. That's part of the whole story. But at the beginning, that is a worry, because you're like, where is our female lead in a 2022 timeline? And that is worrying. But it's brilliantly written. I really liked it. And that's basically the synopsis for it. So 2 people meet, one's a lawyer, one's a journalist, and basically they're from different time periods. And I think what I really enjoyed about this, and I'm already skipping ahead, but I'll just mention it here because it isn't a spoiler, because it is about like time merging. It's the fact that they are only a couple of months difference. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 4 or 6 months that like they're apart in terms of time. So she's back in 2021 and he's in 2022, but they are only about 6 months apart, which I find makes the story like more cohesive, because they aren't years and years apart. So not as much can change in, that shorter period of time, although it can. I just feel like that's quite a nice time difference, which makes it, slightly different. Also, if you hear that, my dog has just decided to join us, so I'm leaving that in. I don't think you can hear him. He's just probably gonna poddle around the room and find a comfortable spot for himself, but hopefully he'll be okay. So I picked up this drama basically because I had watched the female lead in a couple of previous dramas, but I really, really liked her in Forever Love, and that was a drama she did with Wang Ganyu, and I think I spoke about that one in my youth genre, that she was basically, her and the male lead in that drama were like the main reason that I enjoyed that drama so much. So I wanted to check this one out mainly for her, but it wasn't something that I was, super excited for. It was just, I knew the female lead. I quite liked her acting. So I was going in, with pretty low expectations. But I will say, she definitely did not disappoint here. I loved her, her acting and the way she portrayed scenes and everything. I really, really enjoyed that. Now, I haven't watched the original Taiwanese version, but I do have a friend who has watched both versions, and she has said that she's mentioned that the female lead in this version, so in the Chinese version, is actually written slightly better than in the original version. She's mentioned that they find the female lead in the Taiwanese version a little bit more annoying than they do here in the Chinese version. So take that with a pinch of salt. I do wonder if you guys have watched both versions, what were your thoughts? Because obviously I'm only coming at this from watching the Chinese version, and to be quite honest, I'm not sure if I will go back and watch the Taiwanese version, because now I know the ending and I know the story. So with a drama like this, I feel like if I go and watch a remake, then I already know most of the plot points. So my friend has given me the highlights from the Taiwanese version, and all of that, I don't feel the need to necessarily go in and watch that one specially, because it was produced by the same, production company. It was both produced by iQIYI. So yeah, but if you have watched it, let me know, what did you think? So I am going to go now into the things that I enjoyed about the drama. Be warned, there will probably be spoilers from this point onwards. especially because I really want to talk about the ending, and that's definitely a huge spoiler. So, don't go on ahead if you don't want to be spoiled. If you do want to check it out, I highly recommend it. Alert here, I do recommend this one. It's probably one of my favorites for this year. So I would definitely go watch it. Don't worry about the time, the time jump or anything like that, or the time travel. I will say this isn't a spoiler as much because it's like an opinion of mine. It was done extremely well. There was rules to follow. There was, sometimes you watch a time travel drama and you have no idea what's happening because there's no rules to it. But this one, there's predefined rules and they follow those rules right up to the end. So I really enjoyed that. And just, and a side note, I don't think this is much of a spoiler. I will just say I was very happy and content with how it finished. So, if you're worried about that, I was quite happy with how they decided to go about the ending of the drama. So there is that. Now, let's get into the things that I actually liked. The first thing that comes to mind straight away, and I don't think it can be denied, is basically like our main couple. This drama starts and ends with them. It's pivotal that they would have good chemistry, but that they would be able to act out their characters really well. And I think they did. They did so well. I will mention very quickly that one of the things that I enjoyed so much was the fact that just by looking at the male lead, you could tell straight away if he was the 2022 version of himself or the 2021 version of himself, just by the way he would hold himself. You wouldn't even need for him to be dressed a certain way or be talking. You would just know straight away which version of himself he was, and I really enjoyed that for sure. I mean, for the female lead, you can't say as much because you don't really see her too much in 2022 version of herself. I mean, when you do see her, she's basically in a coma, in a bed. So you can't really, judge too much there. You know straight away who she is because in 2022, she's either, spoiler alert, dead or she's, then in a coma. So it doesn't really matter which way you look at it. But for the male lead, I really did appreciate the way you could pretty much just tell which version of himself he was, just by the way he stood and the way he carried himself. Because I think so in the 2021 version, he's still very much at the top of his game as a lawyer in his company. So he almost has this air of running the world. He's very arrogant in the way that he, carries himself because he can. Whereas the 2022 version of himself, he's been humbled a little bit. He's been pulled back. He's not the big shot in his company anymore. He's seeing things differently. So it's not that he isn't as arrogant. He still is very much, for a good few episodes, he's still very much that character, even the 2022 version of himself. I mean, the 2021 version doesn't come in until the later half, I believe, am I remembering correctly? He does come in here and there, but his role doesn't become, more as important as it does in the second half of the drama, I would say. His role becomes really, really important then, both of his, versions. I know it can get a little bit confusing, but it really isn't. When you're watching it, they did, that's another thing I really enjoyed, actually. They did a brilliant job at explaining things and at making things clear, so the story kind of flowed really naturally from one scene to the other, and everything connected really nicely. Whatever happened in 2021, the male lead would come back or the female lead would go into 2022, whichever way. And everything just sort of flowed. There was, action, consequence, as usually there is with the, with time travel, but they did it in a way that just seemed effortless, and it seemed like I understood what was happening, which I really appreciated. And I will say, right up until the very last couple of episodes, I still did not know where they were going with it, which is pretty good, because sometimes you just kind of get a gut feeling, oh, this is what will happen. And my friend that I mentioned earlier, she had explained that in the original Taiwanese version, she had explained that, how that ended. And I was like, oh, no, I don't like it. No, if that's the case with the Chinese version, I'm going to be really mad. And then the way they did it, I was really happy with it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, so I was talking about the main couple's chemistry. I will say, I really loved, the pacing of the relationship. So when they first meet at the beginning of the drama, the 2022 version of the male lead, goes back in time, to 2021. So he's in 2022 and he goes back to 2021, and obviously she's sharing the same apartment as him, and they are basically enemies straight away. And obviously this would be a very natural reaction, because he's coming into her apartment and he sees it as she's coming into his apartment, and they have no idea what's going on at the very beginning. So he even says to her, oh, you must be having a mental breakdown, it's 2022 and you're still in my apartment. And she actually goes and checks herself out because she thinks she's going slightly crazy. Which can be problematic, because, why is it that it's always a female lead that's going slightly crazy? But we're overlooking that, because I don't think it was done in a way that, meant any harm. So I don't mind it too much. But then they go and they're keep getting stuck in this, for every day at 10:06 p.m. they go back in time. Well, he goes back in time, and it keeps happening again and again and again. And he actually figures out what's going on. He figures out that there's a time overlap. And basically at precisely 10:06, their timelines basically merge and overlap. And I really liked that, even though it sounded crazy, she was still open-minded to listening to, what was happening. And obviously it aided that if you're in the apartment at 10:06, you sort of see the light radiate out from the ornament that, means that the time overlap is in place, and you sort of see that happening. And then you basically see all of his stuff gets put into her apartment, because literally the two spaces merge together. And it's really funny because they're complete opposites. He's a clean freak and that sort of thing, and she's not. And this I do have a slight problem with, because why is it that it's always the female lead that is untidy or whatever, because she's working really hard at her job? And this isn't necessarily just true to this drama. I think it happens regularly, but it is a thing that I wish would slightly change, because I don't necessarily think you need to be untidy to, be really good at your job. And I don't think that's how it works in real life. But apparently in Dramaland, that's how it usually is. But anyways, that's what's happening. And in the very first couple of episodes, you basically just see them trying to figure out what's going on, and trying to figure out how can they work this out, because every day their houses become one house, and with two lots of everything, with more things in a very small apartment. So I really liked how that being forced into that situation kind of made them sort of sit down and talk to each other. And then basically what happens is that I really liked was because he is in the 2022 timeline. He could very, very, very easily just move away and then he wouldn't be in this predicament. So basically what happens, and I thought it was done, it was basically used as a plot device, that he is best friends with, he has a best friend, a female best friend, and she gets married to our female lead's best friend, who is a guy. So basically they get married, and in the future, the divorce case that he's handling is that divorce case. And something happens in that divorce case, and that we don't find out till much later on. And that is the reason why the time lapse sort of happens, is that all of these characters are interconnected. And I really liked the writing of the drama in this sense, because it's exactly what I was saying earlier on. Everything just sort of slots into place and you don't quite see the picture, I don't think you even see the whole picture until gone episode 20. So you're getting to the end, and that's when everything kind of gets blown. And that's when you see the whole picture. You see why the time merge is happening. You see how each character is connected. You see, all of those little details that you obviously wouldn't see at the beginning. And I just really, really loved how well that part of the drama was done. It made it so much better to watch, knowing that this might be happening now, but it'll lead to something else. There's always something else that connects everything together. And that's because of basically our main couple basically has this these friends that got married and then got into trouble. Something happens in the future, so the friend dies, the female friend dies, and that's why our male lead keeps living at the apartment and keeps going back in time. It's because he wants to save his friend, and to do that he needs Jalan's help. So that's basically the connection. It's they need to work at the beginning. I really, really like that at the beginning they start working together to basically save their friends. That is their, that's what's forcing them together, and that's what's kind of, pushing them to work together because they want to save their friends. But as the time goes on, you see that actually the people that are in danger aren't their friends anymore, but it's them themselves. And I really, really liked how it was, a kind of it was definitely forced cohabitation, because they definitely didn't want it to happen. So it was forced cohabitation, and they slowly they went from these complete strangers that share this space, and then they go from that to friends, and then eventually to lovers. And their progression of their romance was done so well. It wasn't too slow. It wasn't too too quick. It was a believable progression of how a relationship would look like. But also, I kind of liked the fact that the male lead, so Her Jung-hee, is that what it is? Oh my god, I've forgotten his name now. Yeah, I do think it is Her Jung-hee. Her Jung-hee. Basically, I quite liked that at the beginning, his 2022 version is still very much arrogant and whatnot, and he acts that way towards Jalan, which it would make you not really like his character, but very quickly you peel the layers back and you start to see that actually he's a pretty decent guy. He just doesn't show it as much. He's not the type. He has to carry himself and have that arrogance to sort of get to where he wants to be career-wise. But actually he goes behind and he tries to help people, and he's actually a decent, nice human being, which for a male lead, that tends to be the case. But still, it was nice that they developed that pretty quickly within the drama, because otherwise, I think if they had dragged on, what he really is for quite, for much longer, then I would probably be like, oh, I don't like him. And then it would be harder to connect with them as a couple and with him as a male lead because he wasn't that nice. So I think they did that really, really well. But yeah, for overall, like, the main point that I loved about this drama, from like all of my off topic and not ranting, but my last 20 minutes of talking, basically, the bullet points, our main couple had great chemistry. The pacing of the relationship was really, really good. They worked together really well as a couple, and like resolving what was happening and bouncing ideas off each other. There was really good communication for the most part with them, which I really, really loved to see. And the story was written well. Their characters were written well. So I've mentioned a little bit about this, but the second thing that I really, really, really liked has to be the time travel. The fact that it has rules, and they pretty much discovered those rules and worked them out, and they stuck to them. So, for example, the simple rule that, sometimes in time travel, you don't know, like, how it happens, and you don't know, like, how a certain person gets to a certain place. With this one, you do. It happens to the two of them, and it is because of their apartment, and it happened because he picked up an origami bird that our female lead dropped when she was ran over. She basically dropped this bird, he picked it up, and then he moved into the place that she used to live at, and that's why the time merge happens. It's not only that bird, but it's also the fact that they live in the same apartment. So yeah, that gets pretty much explained on the surface. But then I really loved the rule, the fact that if you want to go to 2022, you go through the front door. If you want to go to 2021, you go out the fire escape. Or is it the other way around? Oh, I think it's the other way around. I think if the female lead wants to go to 2022, she has to go out the fire escape. Or if the male lead wants to go to, 2021, he just has to be in the apartment when it happens. And also, for example, if she's not in the apartment when the time overlap starts, then she cannot physically get into the apartment through the front door. She has to go through the fire escape to go like forwards in time, so to speak. So yeah, there is like a whole bunch of rules, and I wish I'd written these down better, because I feel like it sounds confusing, but it really isn't. Like, they really explain that to you as they find out in the drama. The characters sort of, they're talking through it, and the audience is following along. So I wish I'd written these down slightly better, but that was one that I really, really liked, was the fact how they worked out that if they go out the front door, then they go to a certain place. But if they go out, the fire escape, then they go to the other year. So I really, really, really liked that. So yeah, that was definitely that. Another thing that I really enjoyed as well was the directing. The way they did, so every time the time swap, I keep calling it the time swap, but it's more like a time merge, I would say. Anytime that the time merge would happen, basically there's this light that would radiate out from the origami bird, and I really, really loved that. It was so beautifully done, and there was just these shots of our main couple, like, obviously they only meet at night, and by that I mean our 2022 male lead only meets the female lead at night. So there was really, really beautiful scenes of them just basically like doing everything they wanted to do in a relationship, but they would have to fit it in 50 minutes. And it kind of, sometimes you'd look at it and be like, no way, there's no way they can do all of that in 50 minutes. But still, it was like, it was still done well enough. And like the direction of those scenes was so beautiful. There's one scene that I remember. There's quite a few scenes, but I always loved the fire escape scenes, just because they were so beautiful. And now it's tweaking. I remember if they go out the fire escape, they go out to 2021, because anytime the male lead from 2022 wanted to talk to the male lead he wanted to talk to his 2021 version, he would have to go out the fire escape, so he would get a signal. So that's why. Sorry, it literally just popped into my head as I'm talking through the other things. So yeah, I just think it was really well directed as well. You know, it wasn't anything like extraordinary, but there were scenes that were beautiful enough for me to go, yeah, I like that, or, you know, that's a nice angle and stuff like that. And I don't usually pick that up unless it's something that is quite pretty. So yeah. For my last thing that I really enjoyed is the ending. And I think for me personally, it was like the best kind of ending you could hope for, you know, a drama of this type. So basically what happens is the male lead from 2022 basically sacrifices himself. And in doing so, he sets into motion the fact that the female lead stays alive, the female friend stays alive, the male friend stays alive. So everybody stays alive except his 2022 version. Now, this does lead me to like a point that I wish could have just been fleshed out a little bit more, and that is the fact that if his 2022 version dies in 2021, like, does that mean that basically when his 2021 version gets to that point in 2022, would he travel back? I suppose not, because what I'm guessing happened is that there was like a split. You know, what they did was really beautiful. I actually really loved the directing in this scene. So basically he dies. Like, the 2022 version, to save the female lead, basically dies because he figures there is only one way this is going to end, and it is one of us needs to die. And his thought is that if his 2022 version dies, then she can live, and at least the 2021 version will still be there. But of course, to her, that doesn't matter, because that's not who she's in love with. She's in love with the 2022 version. And I know it sounds crazy and, you know, complicated, but it really isn't. Because she has always seen them as two different people. They are played by the same actor, so you know, they're the same person, but 6 months can change a lot in a person, and it definitely has changed a lot in him. But what I really loved was the fact that the 2021 version, they kind of get pushed together, our female lead and the 2021 version of the male lead. They sort of become entangled, not in a romantic way, but that version of him does fall in love with her all over again. And I'm thinking, well, there's some things that are just meant to be. And yes, the fact that he was driven to her by, you know, pushed more towards her because of the, you know, 2022 version, but his 2021 version, that is still at the height of his career, you know, still has all of his friend there and everything, he still fell in love with Jalan. And that is a fact. And I loved that happened before the 2022 version died, because when the 2022 version dies, he merges, like his soul, I would assume, merges with the 2021 version, and it kind of like becomes one person. But he gets all of the memories and all of the shared moments between his 2022 version and Jalan all together, you know, in his mind. So that just reinforces, but I think they made a very clear distinction that he was already in love with her. And that's important because if he were to become in love with her, or, all of a sudden he would start treating her very, very nicely, just because he got those memories, it would make it so unbelievable because you wouldn't think that was realistic. Well, none of it is realistic, really, but still, you wouldn't believe that love story because you would have seen you would have always thought that he was in love with her because he got those memories, and that's never the case, and that's not questioned because he was already in love with her before. So I really, really love how they did that scene. So basically, when the 2022 version dies, he basically goes front to front with our male lead from 2021, and they kind of merge together. And I think that scene was done so beautifully. And it made the ending okay, because then it led, obviously, Jialan, she finds out that he dies because every night she wants him to come back, and obviously he's not coming back because he's gone. And she then finally, the time merge ends, so there is no more time merge either. So she knows one of them has died because the time merge has ended, and also the 2021 He Zhang-yu basically tells her that's it, he's gone. And the one thing that I thought they did so well, and that's why I was okay to accept Jialan and the 2021 version, is that she mourned his death. She mourned him, and the 2021 version understood that she needed to deal with that, and she needed to heal from that. And then slowly by slowly, she started to realize that although she had always seen them as two different people, they did merge and they became kind of one person. So although he may not seem at first the person that she thought he was, he's still, the 2022 version. I just really, really loved the fact that you kind of see the 2021 version become the 2022 version, through, his love for Jialan and through his acts and everything. So that made that ending okay for me, because I feel like, although at the very beginning there's a very, very sharp contrast between the two versions of the male lead, as the show goes on, you kind of see the 2021 version becoming that 2022 version. So you can understand why Jialan would just fall for him all over again. But it was so important for the drama to show us that time of her just mourning. So yeah, I just loved it. I was very happy with the ending. I think they did a very good job for what it was. I was really worried they were gonna just kill one of them off and be yeah, that's it, that's how it'll happen. So I was very happy that yes, one of them did die, but also he didn't die in a way. So it, best of what I could hope for this type of drama. So that concludes all the things that I really liked. And I'm sorry, guys, I feel like I just rambled a lot, and I feel like it's really hard to talk about this drama in, a coherent way, because there's so many twists and, versions and whatnot, but I hope I did okay. I hope I managed to explain the things that I really liked about it, because I really did love this drama. So yeah, let's go on. Although saying that, there is 2 points. I've put 2 points down that I wasn't as happy with. And funnily enough, it's the Wu brother and sister combo. So for my first thing that I didn't quite enjoy as much was Wu Jirong, who is He Zhang-yu's, so our male lead's female friend. So I thought her character was okay at first, But I didn't like how she basically kept protecting her brother. Her brother is Woo An-wen, and he deserved to be more punished. He's basically the other point that I didn't quite like as much. And that is because so Woo An-wen, you find out that everything that's been happening is because of him. Like, he, in the present, so in 2022, at first, Jialan is in a coma, and that's because he ran her over. So there we go. Jurong gets a divorce because he set up his, brother-in-law to seem as if he was cheating. He never was. So he's, greedy. And the part that I really didn't like was the fact that Jurong basically just kept protecting him over and over again. And that allowed him to cause even more problems because he felt like he had her, her protection. And this actually meant that, I would have preferred for the husband, for Jiang Shanghao, to have given up on her and moved on. I feel like that relationship is just like, I don't see it working out ever because she's always going to keep putting her brother first. And I didn't like, I wish they would have just completely gone their separate ways. And they do. They have a divorce, a clean divorce. However, then you see right at the end that, Jiang Shanghao is like, I'm going to win you back. And I'm like, no, please don't. Please don't. Let her be, let her go off with her brother or whatever, who does go to prison. But still, I think he deserved more punishment. But the problem for me, I think, necessarily was, I think Jurong was very much used as a plot device and a plot point to move the story along. They, not only did they need something to keep, our male lead and female lead working together, and at the beginning that was the case that Jurong actually dies, but then they managed to sort that out, so they managed her, to not die, but still, that's she was very much used as a plot point in various places to move the story in a certain way or to connect the story in a certain way. But in doing so, I don't feel like her character was as fleshed out as it needed to be. And also, dude, you just need to let your brother, be punished, properly punished, because he needs to. He's done awful things. And, basically divorcing your husband when your husband has done nothing wrong but support you is just, I was not a happy bunny with her character. So, if I had to pick two things that I didn't like, it's definitely the Woo brother and sister combo. Him, because he was just an awful person and just needed to be punished more. I don't feel like he was punished enough, in the end. And her, I just feel like she should have given up on her brother and be like, you just need to be punished for what you've done. So, that's definitely the only two things I think I would pick at for this for these two. That's it, I think. Apart from these looser ends with these two characters, I really enjoyed the drama as a whole. I don't think I really could poke any more at it because literally those two characters were the only flaws that I could really find myself not enjoying as much. And I actually ended up scoring this one a 9 out of 10 on MDL. I did basically take a few points away for the Woo brother sister combo because I was just not there for them at all. But overall, like I said, I've really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend this one for anyone who loves time travel. I've banged on enough about it. The time travel is done really well, although it's more like a time merge, I would say, because it only happens in their apartment. Nobody else is aware of it. Nothing. It's just in that apartment. So it's more like a time merge rather than time travel. But still, time merge, romance drama, really, 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 it was done really well. And I don't think you would be disappointed. So I think that's it. So for my questions for this episode, have you watched this drama? And if so, what did you think? what do you usually watch, time merge dramas, time travel dramas, and if so, how does this one rate to you? Like, was it well done? Let me know what you've thought about it. This episode has been like a little bit rambly and a little bit all over the place. I was trying a new format, so basically whenever I do scripts, or whenever I sit down to plan an episode, I write out a script. And I was planning, like, usually I write down most of what I'm going to say. Not necessarily like I read, word for word, but I write out, bullet points of anything that I can think of that I want to talk about. But this one, I didn't. I was like, right, I'm going to try something different. I'm basically just going to throw out there basically like just words on the page of what I think I want to talk about, and then I will pick those, like, basically that, like, for the couple, I basically just like good chemistry and then like expand on that. But I don't know if that works better. So if you've listened to my other review episodes, what did you think? I am actually working. So I started Lighter and Princess, which I'm obsessed with right now. It's like my current go-to drama. I run home after work, and instead of cleaning or cooking or doing what I'm supposed to be doing, as a responsible adult, I sit down and I watch Lighter and Princess. So that's the type of joy it brings me. So for that one, I'm actually writing down, because I know I want to do a review episode for it. So I'm basically writing down scenes from each episode that I like. So I think it'll be much better when I do that for review episodes. But if you've listened to my previous review episodes, what did you think about this one? Please let me know, because I'm still working this out. And honestly, your feedback helps so much, because it helps me, like, I just sit and talk into a microphone, but I forget sometimes that people actually listen to this, and I'm always like curious and always wanting to know what you guys prefer, because I want to get this out to as many people as possible, so people just enjoy, and I can share the love for Chinese dramas and dramas in general, but mainly Chinese dramas. So let me know what you thought. And that's it for this episode. See you next time. This has been another episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana, and you can come and chat to me on Instagram at Tea and Soju Pod, all one word, and on Twitter, tea_soju_pod. You can also email me at teandsojupodcast@gmail.com. Lastly, if you enjoy this podcast, please help by rating and reviewing wherever you listen to help others find this drama corner. I'll leave everything linked in the description notes. See you next time for more Asian drama chatter.